Tonight, from Dallas, Texas, a city known for its art and culture, Dallas Music Network is bringing great local artists to the spotlight. We're streaming on social media and on demand on all major TV streaming devices on 2Stage TV. Your tax-deductible donation can help local musicians become more sustainable by creating opportunities and introducing them to a wider audience. This episode is brought to you by a generous gift from Timothy R. Wallace and the City of Dallas Office of Arts and Culture. And now, Dallas Music Network presents The Spotlight.
Hi, I'm Emmeline.
And I'm Min.
And we are so excited to bring you a brand new, very classy episode of Dallas Music Network's The Spotlight.
Tonight, we are featuring two talented opera singers, Haley Sicking and Avanti Dey.
Collectively, they've been in productions like Così fan tutti, Die Zauberflöte, Hansel and Gretel, La Traviata, and musicals like Little Shop of Horrors, Sweeney Todd, and Jekyll and Hyde.
Why are you so excited tonight?
Well, I'm excited because I'm also a classically trained performer.
Okay.
And you guys, these voices are gonna blow you away.
And now, Haley Sicking and Avanti Dey.
And we're back with Haley Sicking. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to perform for us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. We were talking a little bit before the show about how opera is such an important medium and how we're so excited to get to share it here at Dallas Music Network.
Yes.
It's kind of a calling though.
It is. Yes, it is.
So can you tell us when you felt that call?
When I felt the call to be an opera singer, that's interesting. You know, I have known I wanted to be an opera singer since I was a small child, actually. Before I even heard an opera or ever saw one, I just always knew. I would run around telling my friends, I'm gonna be an opera singer, and I didn't even know what it was. So I very much feel like it was something that I was called to do from a very young age.
So you would give them opera performances?
I would a little bit. I would give demonstrations, even though I didn't know what I was doing, and they loved it. They would often request them, even sometimes in the middle of soccer games on the soccer field.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And then you had the pleasure of getting to like learn what it was,
Yes.
fully step into the role.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things for which you were trained all through college and grad school.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a master's in music from the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, which is amazing. Yeah, so I'm very, very thankful.
Yeah, it's quite a fantastic opera program. And you perform all over the world now in all of these roles.
I have, yes.
We're very blessed to get to hear some of your work on the stage today.
Thank you.
So as you continued to embrace that call, what specifically about opera spoke to you?
I think ultimately opera is about truth. And I think it's about the human experience. And opera, what spoke to me about opera was what it woke up in me when I heard it, which I think is something that we need in the society. And we are so often not presented with opportunities to feel that.
Or just to feel, period,
Yes,
right?
to feel, yes.
So I love that you call opera truth. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's the core of it for you. When you say that opera is truth, it sounds like for you, what you're speaking about is kind of emotional truth.
Yes. Opera is performed and sung, I should say, from a place of alignment, from a place of connection, from a place of honesty, ultimate truth. It's unique in that way. There is entertainment and there's art. And art opera is a true form of art that requires that full integration.
So integration of self for the performer.
Yes.
And it sounds like integration of self for the audience as well, to a certain extent, to
Absolutely.
really be able to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can you
Yes.
share a little bit about that journey?
The journey of how to invite the audience to that, or?
Both. How to invite yourself to it, first of all. Ooh, because I'm sure there's a surrender involved in that.
There is. Yes, the practice of vulnerability is a daily, undeniably important part of being an artist, and specifically an opera singer. You must live into your empowered state, but also be completely exposed all the time. So what that allows as a performer is an opportunity to create a place for internal stillness to arise in the listener. And in that space, and this is what's so powerful about opera, is when you do it well, you create a space that everybody's experience is unique. Because it's their own feeling, their own experience, their own journey of exploration within themselves.
That's really beautiful. So it sounds like the path of inviting the audience is first inviting self.
Absolutely.
And then in inviting self, you're able to open up the space.
Yes.
Give permission for the audience to enter with vulnerability.
Yes.
And then give them permission to kind of access their truest selves.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and the daily practice of that is unique for everybody. You know, the different ways in which we find that within ourselves, it requires a lot of self-awareness. You have to be constantly aware of where are you resisting. So where can I practice non-resistance? Where can I stay open when my instinct is to close? And so that allows the invitation for others to join you in that space.
The sound of crickets and the smell of burnt straw, for soft little rabbits and lemon things, for the magnets standing guard in the fire. But I could always come back if I got homesick for the valley. So I leave it someday and see for myself. Someday I'll leave and then I'll come back when I've seen what's beyond the mountains. Ain't it a pretty night? The sky is so heavy with stars tonight that it could fall right down out of heaven and cover us up and cover us up in one big blanket of velvet and diamonds.
You and I talked a little bit about the voice as an exposed instrument,
Yes.
as an instrument that leaves no secrets, right?
Yes. Yes. You cannot hide when you sing opera. Yeah.
Yeah, so people think, I think sometimes there's this misconception, right, that opera is this like very elevated, inaccessible art form. But what I hear you saying is that for you, what drew you to opera is the accessibility of it, is the fact that it gets to the deeper core of what it means to be human.
Yes, opera is inaccessible. I don't think it is. I think that oftentimes people are drawn to what they're familiar with. And so if they hear something they're unfamiliar with, they oftentimes don't give it a chance. And so they hear it once or twice and they're like, oh, I don't like that. Well, how many times have you heard one singer sing one country song or one pop song and been like, oh, I don't like that, but you didn't give up the entire genre? There are so many genres of opera, so many different singers, so many different interpretations. It's important to familiarize yourself with it before you just write it off entirely, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like it does take kind of a dispelling of the misconception that it is this thing that exists separate and apart from the human experience that we all have to kind of chase.
Absolutely.
But that it's more something that we have to kind of dig deep down and find inside of ourselves.
Yes. And it's also fascinating because in listening to opera, sometimes people have this misconception that, oh, they're just screaming, they're just singing loud. Well, opera, when done properly, is actually the complete opposite. It is an alignment of one of the truest sounds the human body can make. It is fully supported, it is free, a full resonant vibration through your being. And there's no screaming in terms of tension involved when it's done properly because you utilize all of your resonant cavities in your skull that make you sound loud. But it's actually, it's not that loud, it's just resonant. There's a big difference.
It's an important distinction. It's not loud, but I think that's an important distinction too for like self and vulnerability. Is this idea of resonance?
Yes.
And not necessarily as just sheer raw power, right? That we're kind of shoving through.
Yes.
But this concept of opening things up. Like opening ourselves up to emotion, opening all of our placement up. And you know, most people don't necessarily know this, but I know that it's something you know because this is what you do for a living, that singing actually comes more naturally to us as humans than speaking.
It does. Yes, it absolutely does.
And is actually a healthier way for all of those mechanisms to interact.
Yes. Yeah.
So you not only sing, but you teach.
I do teach some, yes.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about sort of the juggling of those things and how teaching allows you to communicate that philosophy?
Obviously the pandemic changed a lot for everybody. In one sense, a benefit that came for me from everything going virtual is that now when I travel to perform, I'm able to take my studio with me online. And so I don't have to, take 4 weeks off or something from my teaching. And so it's obviously not the same as an in-person interaction, but it works. And I love teaching. I really love it. I feel like, not everybody has a calling for teaching or is good at communicating things verbally in a way that makes teaching easy. And I just think I have a gift for it. And so I appreciate every one of my students. And I have students that sing professionally and some people that are doing it for a hobby. And so this idea of vulnerability, but from a place of empowerment is something that I really focus on in my studio. And where can we break down the blockages that are stopping the free resonance in the body, the free energetic vibrations, if you will. You can use all types of vocabulary there, but just to keep everything free and buoyant and open.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So if people are super interested in getting familiar with opera, if they've heard you perform on our show and they're thinking, wow, this is fantastic, I need to see more of this. How can they follow you? Where's the best place for them to access what you do?
Sure, you can go to HaleySicking.com or Haley_Sicking is my Instagram.
So HaleySicking.com or Haley_Sicking on Instagram, and that's SICKING.
Yes.
Haley, I am so excited that you're here to share opera with all of us today, and I can't wait for our audience to hear more of it.
Thank you.
Près des remparts de Séville, chez mon ami Los Postia, j'irai danser la seguidille, boire du Mansania. J'irai chez mon ami Los Postia. Oui, mais tout selon s'ennuie, et les plaisirs sont à deux. Donc, mettez-lui compagnie, je mènerai mon amoureux. Il est un diable, je l'aime et je le peux dire. Mon pauvre cœur, très consolable, mon cœur est libre comme l'air. Je dégaine dans la douzaine, mais je ne sens pas à mon gré. Voici la fin de la semaine. Qui veut m'aimer, je l'aimerai. Qui veut mon âme et apprendre, vous arrivez au bon moment. Je n'ai guère à attendre, car avec mon nouvel amour, près de remparts de Séville, chez mon ami Los Postia, nous danserons la seguidille et boirons du Mansania. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la,
And we're back with Avanti Dey. How are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to perform for us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always wonderful to perform for people and in a new space and with a new audience. So it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge for sure.
Yeah, we love having you guys on the stage because, as you know, it's a beautiful experience. Lots of lights, lots of moving parts.
Absolutely.
But you are no stranger to that because you've been in a multitude of stage productions. Can you tell our audience a bit about how you got started?
Yeah, so I've always been a musician, and it's something that has sort of evolved through various forms. I wasn't always very familiar with sort of Western classical music. The sort of music that I grew up with was very Andrew Lloyd Webber and like Cats and Phantom of the Opera, which actually was sort of the thing that made me be interested in opera because I saw those grand sets and like the costumes and the drama. I was like, oh yeah, I wanna do that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a part of that for sure. And so I'd sort of always been peripherally interested in it, but I played piano growing up, and that's what I wanted to do for the longest time, was to be a concert pianist. But it wasn't really until, when I was maybe 11 or 12, we went on a school field trip where I grew up in Canada. We went to Toronto to the Canadian Opera Company, and they were having a production of Puccini's Turandot. And we went to the final dress rehearsal of it, and I remember thinking, that's it. That's what I want to do. It was the drama, it was the heightened experience of everything. It was the singing, of course, was just glorious, but then you had the sets and you had, a full chorus singing, and it was a very immersive experience that even though, I'd seen and done musical theater, this seemed like an even more extreme version of it, an even more dramatic version of it. And I'm very attracted to that aspect of it. And I think, yeah, that's definitely what I want to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, opera is definitely an emotional experience because it is something that, is very visceral in how you sing. Mm-hmm. So, but you are unique as an opera singer in that you exist in multiple musical spaces. There are a lot of opera singers, for our listeners, who exist as opera singers, and that's like their specialty, that's what they do, they don't really deviate, but you are open to so many different genres of music, and it sounds like some of that might have been influenced by the fact that you dabbled in a lot of different kinds of classical music at the beginning of your musical experience. Can you talk a little bit about how you find the technique differs from place to place?
I would say I think about this question a lot when I'm also trying to explain it to other people. It's like, how do you go from doing, Beauty and the Beast, which was the last show I did, to doing something like Puccini? And I think the answer is that the technique is not necessarily different. It's just how you use your voice and how you use your voice to express certain aspects of the character. And I actually find that doing a lot of musical theater has helped a lot as an opera singer and vice versa. Because I think for musical theater, it's just it's almost a raw version of it where you just kind of go, you splat on the stage all your emotions. And I think in opera, there's almost a tendency to hold back in that and trying to make the sound very beautiful. But I think there's a way that you can marry the both of them to make the emotion very raw and have it come out as a very beautiful but honest sound as well. And so I'm always thinking about doing a musical theater role. I'm not trying to sing it operatically, but I'm trying to kind of use the same way I would express that emotion in opera, in musical theater. And then when I'm in opera, I think, just stop trying to focus so much on having it a very stand and sing kind of thing and infuse more of that drama and more of that emotion, that unfettered emotion that you see in musical theater into the operatic interpretation. So I try to always bring a little bit of both into each when I'm doing one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you also sing with the symphony chorus.
I do.
So how does choral singing fit into that?
Choral singing, so I actually started with choral singing because that was sort of my first sort of introduction into Western classical singing. And I think that's probably a little bit more different than musical theater and opera singing. You're not singing as an individual, but you are singing as part of a group. And so you sort of have to hold back in a sense, but also refine the way that you're singing. But it also depends on what kind of choral singing. If it's just a chorus, you do have to sort of be the streamlined voice. Whereas singing with an opera chorus, as I'm singing now with the Fort Worth Opera, you can sing a little bit more like an individual with the expectation that everyone else is also singing like that. So it kind of all just kind of funnels out as one massive united voice, which makes it a little different.
So there's a thicker sound.
Yeah, exactly.
When that sounds like that might be a little bit more in line, because that enables you to embody the emotion and embody the character, even if you're in a choral role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I'm always thinking about that. I think there's a tendency, especially when you're learning music for the first time, to get very bogged down in learning, the rhythm and the dynamics and the notes, and make sure your face is doing what it needs to and what your body needs to be doing it. But at the end of the day, you're trying to convey a character, a particular character. Even if it's within a chorus, you're still a member of a village or a palace or some kind of dramatic interpretation. So I think the final step into any sort of singing is to bring an individual dramatic interpretation to that character, whether or not they have a name, but it just helps for getting that final bit of intention across, which is sort of the key to music, and especially with opera and musical theater. It's just so intention-based, and if you don't have it, I think the audience realizes immediately that you don't. It's all very fine to stand there and sing it, but if the audience doesn't feel it on a very visceral level, I think that's immediately clear. And so that's what I always think about when I'm singing something like Beauty and the Beast or Puccini. It's always, how can you convey the truth and the honesty of the character to the audience in a way that's real and that's honest.
It's going to be relatable, right?
Yeah.
Poco fa qui nel cor mi risuonò, il mio cor ferito è già, e l'indor fu che il piago, sì l'indoro mio sarà, lo giorai, la vincerò, sì indoro mio sarà, lo giorai, la vincerò. Il tutto ricoserò, io l'ingegno guzzerò, alla fin si chiederò, e contenti io resterò, sì l'indoro mio sarà, lo giorai, la vincerò, sì l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Io sono docile, dolce amorosa, sono obbediente, dolce amorosa, mi lascio reggere, mi fo guidar, mi fo guidar. Ma se mi toccano dove il mio debole sarà una libera sarò e 100 trappole prima di cedere farò giocar e 100 trappole prima di cedere farò giocar e 100 trappole prima di cedere e 100 trappole farò giocar. Io sono docile, sono mietente, mi lascio reggere, mi fa ma se mi toccano dove mio debole sarò libero sarò e 100 trappole prima di cedere prima di farò giocar e 100 trappole prima di cedere farò giocar e 100 trappole prima di cedere e 100 trappole e 100 trappole farò giocare e 100 trappole farò
So I hear you saying that kind of the way you approach it is to think about the audience sort of experiencing what you experienced when you were
Yeah.
11 or 12 and saw it and thought, this is it.
Exactly, because there's a lot of talk about opera trying to be accessible and trying to bring people in, and I don't think that means to dumb it down necessarily, but just to get back to what made opera so exciting when it first emerged as an art form, 400 years ago. People saw this amazing marriage of singing and acting and theatrics and drama and everything, and you want to convey that excitement to the audience. I mean, there's a reason that the opera Aida by Verdi has been performed, it's one of the most performed operas because it's so grand in scale, and there's an elephant and there's like 100 people in the chorus and everyone is singing, and it's amazing, and it's such a visceral, immersive feeling. And I think if you can convey that to the audience, to say that, it's not just about singing very high notes or singing them very fast, but it's such an exciting, immersive world that even if you don't understand exactly what's being said, you can feel the very palpable emotion. During the final judgment scene, you can feel the character Amneris begging for her lover's life, and you should be able to feel her despair and her torment at that, even if you don't understand exactly what she's saying. And I think that is what the job of the opera singer is to do, is that to convey that emotion despite any kind of barrier that opera traditionally puts up, because that's what people were attracted to in the first place. And we don't have to necessarily make it easier to understand, but we just have to sort of cut to the truth of what it really means.
So what I hear you saying is that for our viewers who might not be as familiar with classical music or with opera specifically, the best thing they can do is forget that they don't know the language and just focus on how it makes them feel.
Yeah, exactly. And we use the same sort of tricks in opera as you do in modern music. Keys, music that is sad tends to be sort of in a minor key and a little bit slower. Happier, more energetic music tends to be a little bit faster and in a major key. And this is something that musicians have known for thousands of years, and they continue to use that. And so, there's always sort of a through line into making opera something that everyone can relate to on some level, even if it's not a very fantastical storyline that may be a little bit beyond most of our daily lives. It's still something that we can appreciate on some level.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you talk about that, because our viewers might not know, but you have a very academic background. In addition to having a very musical background, you have a PhD, you've studied neuroscience, and are now do neuroscientific research. And so I think, people could assume that your approach would be more academic in nature, but what I hear you saying is that actually what draws you to opera is that it is just this kind of explosion of emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's actually a very nice compliment to what my actual academic training is, because it is a different approach, but the compliment is nice in the sense that I can go back and forth between the two of them as I would, as a person. I don't have to always think very logically and more streamlined and more rigidly, in a sense, but that I have this arena to play in that is more dramatic and emotional, and that provides the outlet for that. So, and it's always the case where I'm, when I'm doing my scientific job, I'm not necessarily thinking about music, and vice versa. So I'm able to separate those two very nicely, but they give me a nice distinction for the health of my personal life, that I have some sort of an escape to go into, whether it's scientific if I'm feeling that, or if it's musical if I'm feeling that.
That's amazing. Well, I think we can all use that musical escape, and I'm so glad you came here to give it to us today. If people are watching you and they're thinking, Avanti is just magical, where's the best place for them? Because opera, you have productions all the time. You're constantly doing new shows. You're in community theater, you're in regional theater, you're in regional opera. Where can people find you? Where's the best place for them to track you down?
So I tend to post my updates most frequently on my Facebook page, which is Avanti Dey Mezzo. And I also post them to my website, which is avantiday.com. Very simple. Not a lot of people have that name, so it's very nice to have that.
It's like your parents knew.
Yeah, exactly. So I tend to post all my updates there, and things are added as soon as I sign contracts and know about them. Music and theater and performing, it's one of those professions where you don't always know what you're doing a year out in advance, so things change often. So I'm very glad to update it when new things happen.
There you go. So you heard it here first. Go to Facebook, find Avanti Dey. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you can get all the updates and find out what this lovely lady is going to be next. I'm so glad you came to visit us, and I can't wait for people to hear more of your music.
Thank you so much. It was such a joy talking to you.
And that is our wonderful show.
We'd like to thank Avanti Dey, Haley Sicking, our entire cast and crew here at Dallas Music Network, our fantastic sponsors, the City of Dallas Office of Arts and Culture, and Timothy R. Wallace, and, of course, you for watching. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. We have tons of amazing content coming your way, and we don't want you to miss a single show. Min, where can they find us?
You can find us on all social media platforms, literally everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Basically, yeah, all over the internet. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll see you right back here very soon.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to The Spotlight, presented by Dallas Music Network. Please subscribe, like, and follow, and stream tonight's featured artist. This episode was brought to you by a generous gift from Timothy R. Wallace and the City of Dallas Office of Arts and Culture. Dallas Music Network is a 501c3 nonprofit organization helping artists reach their full potential through various programs, including artist development, song development and recording, streaming, digital media, and promotion. We work to help musicians increase their fan base, which is critical to their long-term financial sustainability. Your tax-deductible donation can help us continue to support the local music community. Donate on our website at dallasmusicnetwork.com. Or to find out more information on how to become a sponsor, email Beverly at dallasmusicnetwork.com. Watch all Dallas Music Network productions on demand on your TV by downloading the free independent film and music app, 2Stage TV. Available on Roku Player, Apple TV, Fire TV, and Android TV, and in the Apple and Google Play app stores for mobile devices.